At this point in the program, we are going to have closing remarks from our Ohene. I see the kids got a lot of energy. We're gonna outdo these young people. There's only 3 of them and 40 of us. So when I say our honored guest and our esteemed leader and our king of the Asante and Kurom, please give him love, light, and energy. Without further ado, Ohene, Nana Tuuda. Check.
Yamiwa, which is the male, female supreme being. Nananum and Samafo, which are our honorable ancestors. Nananum Panifo, which are our honorable elders. Abusiakor, which are our clans. Abusiafor, which are our family members. To our host, the Sarasset Society, or Tuku Kamu and Himshechem and family. To our esteemed representative, the Baamuhene of Agogo, representing Nana Koko Sarpong, and our illustrious Queen Mother who has joined him, as well as all of our Agogo family, the Nananum that have come. Most importantly, to our brothers and sisters that have come here today, both in physical form and throughout the world, using technology, we want you to know that all that we are, everything that we have done is for you. It is for you. The challenges that we face as Africans has been touched on by Sister Astu so eloquently. And so I want to shed a few insights that have been gained over the years that talk about not only challenges, but how do we work through them. I keep in touch with our young folks through some of my intermediary young folks. And they tell me that our young people now has a saying, make it make sense. Make it make sense. And that's so profound because when I reflect on it, I've been asking my ancestors this ever since I've become aware that there was spiritual reality beyond physical and that I was connected to it. But I would never take anything on face value. I would ask them, where you're leading me, you got to make it make sense, okay? Because it's a little different than what I was raised with. It's a little different from what I became comfortable with, even though I was raised in a very, very functional, loving family from a Western perspective, but I was living in hell and didn't know why. So part of the book reflects the journey that I've had from birth, moving to the point of begin to not only have a greater understanding of why we have fallen as a people, but also what is our way back. And I want to share a few keys with you, hopefully to make it make sense to you. We have to accept that when these Europeans and their offspring showed up on our shores, we say, 450, 500, 600 years ago, we have to ask ourselves a question. If snakes come to your house and predators come to your door, do you open your door and welcome them in and then let them have access to your children and your family? Well, at some point, that is exactly what happened. Why? Because we lost our way. Our nets went on the ground. When we were raised and created to stand up straight as African spirits, reflecting the divine qualities of all power, all presence, and all knowledge that we were created to be as Africans, we walked away from that. and we lost our spiritual sense of who we are and how do we navigate through a very treacherous environment. If you don't know how to navigate through this earth, it's treacherous. And so as a result of this taking place, exemplified that a man cannot put his foot on your neck unless your neck is on the ground. So therefore, what we have to do is stand up again as African people. How do we do that? My personal history, when you hear today honoring Nana Tuuda, Nana Tuuda, Nana Tuuda, I'm blessed to know that at a certain point in time in my journey, that it was revealed to me that I had a specific mission. And the mission manifested itself even before I knew the details of it in 3 parts, with the first part having a part A and part B. And one, I was instructed that I had to find out who I am, first and foremost. And so therefore, and I'm going to mention certain names today. If I don't mention anyone's name, don't take it personal. As a matter of fact, I've had time to put many, many of your names in the book. So you'll see it there. But there were 3 key people that were put in my life at key specific points in time that are building blocks for all of the elders and all the information and all of the spirit guides that I've had throughout my life. But there were 3 folks that had a pivotal role. And so in 1979, 1980, my younger brother said that he saw I was on a pursuit to try to find out who I was. And the book spells out the details of the journey. But he said, you know, when I look at you, I think you're going to be interested in somebody named Ra or Nefer Amen. And so I went and sought him out, and he was teaching class in Southwest Philadelphia, little recreation center, little short man, you know. And I'm like, I don't know. I've been studying Theosophy and Rosicrucians and going through all these various teachings. So I said, well, let me sit down and hear what he has to say. In 1 hour, this man captured all the things I had been learning from other cultures, other people, and put it in a context that was African, holistically, on all levels, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, physically, dealing with all forms of health and nutrition and yoga and meditation and homeopathy and oracles. And I mean, it just went on and on and on. And I just was taken to another level at that point. It was shortly thereafter, within a month, that I went to my first retreat, the Asaraset Society, which Ra Nefer Amen is the founder and the head of. They hold yearly retreats in Virginia. So I went to the retreat, and it's nice, you know, we're chilling. Early in the morning, a Khan priestess assistant came and got me. It must have been about 5 a.m. He took me to the riverside, and the Shechem or Shechem was there, 5 o'clock in the morning. So I'm saying, uh-oh, I must be in trouble. You know, what did I do? It was at that time that the Akan priestess went into possession, and the Obasoon came and told me that I was an Akan. It was revealed to me in 1979 that I was a Khan because I was clueless before that. I was a general African doing everything that we do, trying to get back. But she went on in possession to say that she was bringing me to the Asaraset Society because it most resembled the old ways of the Akans. And there was nowhere else that she was able to bring me at that time so that I could get the training that I would need to prepare me for what it is to come. I went to Asaraset, and they said, when it's time for him to be released, we want you to let him go. Don't hold on to him. Let him go. He has work to do. He's an Akan. Shechem and share. Not everybody in the Sarasota society are ancient Committeans. Many of them come to learn and then go back and do the work to their various nations. So I was one of them. And I must admit, I don't know how many of you are Harry Potter fans, but when I was told I was a Khan and I looked around, it was like the house was shivering. It wasn't something that I was really kind of thrilled with. I said, well, because, everybody wants to be Committean, whatever. But as the time went on, I was there for 11 years. And it came a time when it was time for me to go to the next level, and I knew it spiritually. You're going to hear me talk a lot, or not a lot, because I'm not going to be on this long, but you'll keep hearing me making reference to I was led. I was led. That is this relationship that we have with the unseen spirits that are part of our family and our community. And therefore, we must open ourselves up and be led by them, because if we don't do that, we will stay on this treadmill of just trying to find ourselves physically and not be able to generically make the connection once again. So in 1982, I was blessed to be a part of a delegation where Nana Akuoko Wari II was coming to the U.S. for the gold exhibition. And I was working with the Sarasota Society, and we were co-hosts for him along with other people. But it was there that I met Nana Akuoko Sarpong for the first time in 1982. And in the language of our Asante brothers and sisters, I was just a small boy then. I didn't have any position or whatever, but I was like a sponge. I would soak up everything. And so in 1982, I met Nana Sarpong, and he didn't really recognize me. I was just one of the small boys, holding umbrellas or whatever, which is not a bad thing. Matter of fact, umbrella holders get to hear a lot of what's going on because of their proximity to the king. And so it wasn't until 1985 when Sarasota Society traveled to Ghana for the first time, and I was blessed to be a part of that delegation. So it was there I got a chance to be on the ground and experience. All the time, my ancestors are speaking to me, and they're critiquing this, and they're giving me insights on things that there's no way that I could take credit for because I studied this, or I'm so intelligent, or no. It was being revealed, and I'm a good listener, and I'm a good follower. And so in 1985, we had a wonderful experience. We went back again in 1986 with the Sarasota Society. And it wasn't until 1990, I had already made my transition out of Sarasota Society because it was time for me to do so. And I went to the East Festival. This is 1995. I went to the East Festival in New York, and I ran into the Shechem. And at that time, we greeted one another warmly. And I told him I was on my way to Ghana because I was going to an installment of Brother Cody Anderson here. May his spirit be at peace and rest. He was being installed in the Kwaku region, and I went there to support that. And when I mentioned to Shechem that I was going to Ghana, he says, Nana Sarpong always asked about you. He said, so I want you to go see him when you go to Ghana. And I'm floored because I never even knew he recognized, who I was, but something else was going on. When I got to Ghana in 1990, I looked him up. He welcomed me with open arms, and for the next 5 years, I went under his wing, and he introduced me to the Agogo, the Agogo elders, the Nana Noom, the Abusiakor, the clans, the Abusiakor, the families, and I began to immerse myself into the Akan culture, but I still was not clear on who I actually was as an Akan. Because there's 3 stages to being an Akan. One of them, you realize you're an Akan. But then there's branches of Akans, as the Odrifo reference. So you could be an Akyem, as our dear sister Hema Asari is. You could be a Fanti. You could be Asante, you could be an Akwamu. There's various branches. So even though you have the same family structure, same 8 clans or a Khan, you still have a little different way of navigating. So it's important that you know your specific bloodline as you go back to reconnect to who you are. And then the third aspect of it, and the most important part, is your family. Which family did you come from? And so let me just have a dribble real quick, give you why it is that you have to be able to have an understanding that just because you've come here and they've attempted to wipe out our memory about who we are, how it's structured so that you, by opening yourself up, can reconnect just as one here in Asante and Kurom has done. Would you share that with me, please?
Yeah, I would just say, if you imagine 4 people like KOFI, Kwesi, Abena, and Akua, 300 years ago, they get captured and forced into North America in chains and slavery. They start fighting against that, waging war against the enslavers, escaping and so forth. They have children. Their children grow up. They fight against enslavement as well. Some of them escape and so forth. But eventually their children, KOFI, Kwesi, Abena, and Akua transition. They die and they see their children growing up in America. And they are the ancestor and ancestress of their children. And their grandchildren are born, and generation after generation, these great ancestors and ancestresses, KOFI, Kwesi, Akua, and Abena, are watching over their descendants generation after generation. But at some point, a few hundred years later, the great-great-great-great-grandchildren of KOFI, Kwesi, Abena up, and they get married, and it's time for them to have children, and the spirits that to the womb is KOFI and Kwesi, and they're the very same KOFI, Kwesi, Abena, and Akua from 300 years ago who were forced from the continent. Now they're born back into the world, walking around once again. That's a spirit genetic inheritance. Just like you change clothes every night, you're the same person, but you have a different wardrobe on. When we move through our spirit genetic blood circles, we're born through the same clans. Our Nsamanfo, our Nananum Nsamanfo make sure we're born through the same clans. We have specific abosom that govern us, and our clans are reflective of that. And even the Achinebois, the animal totems that follow us. If I'm growing up in Chicago and the Kwakwadabi, the crow is showing up every time there's an issue that takes place and they need to warn us about something, or someone is a child of the Asinie Abusia, and the Apine, the bat, shows up anytime there's a problem and so forth, or someone's Asachiri and the Opete, the vulture, shows up in America, and we're just walking around, we don't know what's happening, but our Nsamanfo will send us those messengers to communicate with us. And then we find out later, we're put in position to come across information to pull those things together, like the reason why you're seeing these totems, the reason why you're connected to this culture, the reason you're drawn to Adinkra and Kente and these different things is because you're KOFI, you're Kwesi, you're Akua. We're the same people who have returned. When you see quote-unquote African Americans walking around, these are ancient ancestresses and ancestors who were forced from the continent, and now they're back. Okay.
Madasi, thank you. This is important because one of the biggest stumbling blocks that we have to actually moving from being generic African identified, which is a step. When we went in this country and were brought here and went from being called niggers to colored to Negroes to blacks to Africans born in America to, African Americans to Africans born in America. There are steps, and all the movements and all the people that were involved with us making this transition is what we've all brought us here. We stand on the shoulders of them, and then what we've been doing over the past umpteen years. But we have to step up our game now, because we did not come from a generic African environment. Africa has 54 countries with multiple cultures within those countries. Every bloodline, every ethnic group, yes, we're connected at the root, but then you have to live life based on who you are, based on your particular bloodline. So when you look at everyone, Asante and Kurom was able to come into existence not because Nana Tuuda brought it into existence, but it was because just as my journey brought me to the awareness of being not only an Akan, but an Asante and then an Aseni, which is one of the 8 clan members, totally revolutionized my life, especially as it pertains to my footprint on the ground. There's certain people, again, I just have to mention names. Brother KOFI Anyankusi, who's a part of us, one of the founders of AWA, but he's also one of the Abusi Alpanines of the Aseni clan in Agogo. So therefore, me being an Aseni and him being an Aseni elder, when I go to Ghana, I go to my Aseni family first. But he would tell me, he says, you know, Nana, you come here and you go to that palace and you spend all this time around Nana Sarpong and Nana Num. He said, you're not going to meet any of the family members in there. He says, that's like going to court. There's too much heat in there. You got to come out and get with the people. And that's what I was able to do. And 2 of the people that I met through KOFI Anyankusi was a person by the name of Mr. Barfor and another one by the name of Mr. Fofi Asari. And what they did was to open up their home for me so that when I came to Ghana, I wasn't staying at a hotel anymore. I was able to actually live as the people in Ghana. And I'm forever grateful for that, which provided the foundation for us as Asante and Kurom to then construct, you heard the mention of embassy. Well, you say, well, you know, how can y'all have an embassy? You know, are you a country? Well, yeah, we are. We are Oman. We are a nation. It's not a matter of how many people you have. It is a matter of the family structure that puts it together, and then you have your elders, and then you have your chieftaincy, then you have your priest class. You have all of the various components that come, but it all starts with the family foundation. And so therefore, for you to go and be able to re-identify with your bloodline, which is what your ancestors are giving you the sign for, you got to pay attention. In my particular case, when I was growing up, a bat showed up in my house, which we know the fear that we have been put in us about bats. And, you know, rightfully so, in a way, if they may have rabies, it's not something you want to, you know, grab them with your hands. But it showed up in my house before I knew anything about that being a totem for the Asante clan. 2 more times at crucial points in my life, at different locations, bats showed up as part of my confirmation that I am an Asante. People had dreams they would tell me. So all of this is happening not for me as a unique person, it happens for y'all, but we need to pay attention. You need to expose yourself, which is part of what Asante and Kurom wants to do, which is to be able to give you enough experience to have, for us, it's the Asante, the Akwamu, you know, the Akan experience, up close and personal. Every now and then I watch TikTok, you know, or Facebook. Why? Because I need to see what our young people are doing. What are they saying? And in 1 year, which is about the amount of time, space I give it, because that's addictive, okay? You can sit there and scroll forever on that. But what it went from was a lot of stupidity and a lot of jokes and whatever. Now, I'm finding a lot of information coming through the young people about the veil being lifted from their eyes in terms of who they're not. They're starting to find out who they're not. But what they need to know more about is who they are. Each one of y'all represent the leadership of where we have to go as a people. It is only through the reunification, first of ourselves, within ourselves, organizing ourselves again as family structures based on our bloodline, expanding that to be able to create nations. When you look at what have been able to do, it was mentioned Baamuhene's sister Jewel Ali, who is the mother of our nation. We would not exist because the Akans are matrilineal. So therefore is the first female in her clan that establishes a town, so that the Asante and Kurom's royal family are Asenis, Not based on Nana Tuuda, but based on Sister Jewel Ali's identification and realignment with her spirit. So this is something that the dynamic of my process and my journey, this book is not something that is written as a pat on the back autobiography. It is a how-to manual based on my example and what I was able to do and the blessing that I had to come back in contact with all of these spirits that we ended up, each and every one of these had their own story about how they were able to realign themselves with their bloodline and come to the awareness. Y'all should be talking to them. Ask them, well, what was your journey? Each one of us have our own way. The other thing that came up on TikTok was this madness that has an indigenous continental-born Africans talking about how negative the African Americans are and how they have to protect themselves from us. And then conversely, you have those that are talking about the African Americans have to protect themselves for their brothers and sisters, and we need to kick them out this country because we're the reason they're here. And I'm saying, okay, I can see why this is out there. Today, you can't ignore what is taking place here today. This is not some ceremonial, one-off occasion. This is years and years and years of getting to know each other. There's a process that's taking place here that's a filtering process. We suffer from a lack of good character. Huh? Good character is at the foundation of African culture. Everything you see is aimed at building solid foundation, solid culture, and you have to do it systemized. It's not an individual journey. You can only go so far. That's why our ancestors was called the authors of civilization. People think we was floating around on clouds, thousands and thousands of years ago. No, we had wayward behavior. But our ancestors put together systems that was divinely connected that enabled us to be able to rise above and redirect the forces that are within us that we were not using them the way they were designed to use. And that's what African culture does for you. We have Nana Tuuda, who you heard today, who's the Gyamfi of Agogo, the chief linguist for Nana Sarpong. If any of you work with corporations and whatever, you may know the chief, the CEO of the corporation, but when it comes down to rolling up your sleeves, you want to be able to work with somebody you can get your hands on quickly, and they can work with you on a daily basis. And that's what Nana Tuuda has been for us. He's been sent, and he's one of the ones that recognizes not only who he is, but who we are. And each and every one of you that have traveled and have been with me, and by extension us over the years, you're game changers with us. Because, as y'all know, we get known and we get called Obronis. Obronis is a term that loosely means white people, and it would puzzle me because I'd ask them, I said, do I look white? And what they would explain, well, you don't look it, but you act like white people, And I had to go deeper into it and explain to them that Obroni doesn't mean white people. Our ancestors named these people who invaded our land evil, wicked people. That's what Obroni really means. So once I defined that, I said, are you saying we're evil and wicked? Oh, no, Nana. I said, well, then see yourself recognizing what happened to us and also what happened to you. What happened to us in chattel slavery, everything was removed from us. What happened in colonialism, a lot was removed from you. But we both are suffering the same type of challenge, and Sankofa has to apply to all of us, which is what we're doing here today. Being examples of this. So, the identity with your clan is not necessarily going to come right away, but it doesn't stop you from being able to structure yourselves differently. You have to ask yourself the question, and Astu, Dr. Robin Austin touched on this. If in fact we were living in a peaceful, harmonious, civilized way on all levels, family was intact, communities was intact, everything was as it should be, heaven on earth. And then we fell off our square and allowed these people to come in, and ever since there's been chaos. And when we studied their history, they have not brought forth anything good since they've been on the planet. And you can trace this. Don't take my word for it. Go back and show me where they've done anything where either they haven't stole it from somebody else and tried to make it seem like it was theirs, or it's so polluted that it's killing them. And now they put what? And let me say this to you. We have to Sankofa together where we are and travel back. So when you read the book, you see my Christian roots and the seriousness that I had in doing that until the ancestors took me to a step. And this is not to say that people are Christians or Muslims or anyone has the same journey I have. But the fact that you're here and you're a Muslim or you're a Christian or Buddha or whatever says that there's something else in you that needs to be satisfied. And that's why you're here. So that's what unifies us. It's not our religions, the Western religion. That doesn't unify us. The political systems, it doesn't unify us. The educational systems they give us destroys us. So when we examine all of these systems that's been imposed upon us, we have to take pause and examine. After all the education, all of the PhDs we have, all of the doctors, all of the access to health care, all the president that was a black man, you know, we can go on and on and on, but our statistics are worse than they've ever been prior to having all of these things. So that's the motivation for us, to be able to look back. Sankofa, go back and fetch that which was in our past, but it has an egg. The bird has an egg in its mouth. And it's saying that it just can't go back and fetch anything, because you don't go back far enough, then you're going to fetch those people, places, and things that have our neck on the ground. You got to go back far enough, but the principles don't change. So you bring the dynamic aspect of culture, it's alive and well. You can do that generically without knowing who you are. You can embrace it until the spirit reveals to you who you are, but then you want to organize yourselves around your family structures, behind clan systems, not nuclear family structures. That was given us by the white man. Partisan politics is not the governmental system of our ancestors. The institution of chieftaincy is, but the chieftaincy doesn't come unless there's a family structure in place. I understand why we say we come from kings and queens, because we want to hold ourselves up to have pride. But the reality of it is we come from families first. And then out of families, the elders come. And then the elders decide who leadership should be. When you look at Agogo, Agogo has his own jurisdiction and authority. So therefore, Nana Sarpong is the king, and Nana Frakuma is the queen of Agogo. And even though you have the Asante Hene, the overall custodial of Asante, you know, the golden stool and all of that, the Asante Hene does not run Agogo. Nana Sarpong is the head of Agogo. Do you understand? Jurisdiction and authority. We are under the impression, or were under the impression, that you had to go to Africa in order to be empowered to have jurisdiction and authority in your place of abode, where you live. That's impossible. They don't have the spiritual covering to do that. They don't have the knowledge base to do that, especially when we're talking about here. So when I'm in Agogo as the Nkabomhene, I am a citizen of Agogo. I'm the only one that's a citizen of Agogo, but Agogo has become our sister city, because the same 8 clan systems that we have are the same 8 clan systems that they have. Asanas on both sides of the room, raise your hands. Asanas. Asenis, raise your hand. Bretu, raise your hand. Agonas, raise your hands. I'm getting in trouble now because I'm going to be skipping somebody. Ajuanas, I said Ajuanas. Ayoko, raise your hands. Ajuana, that's right. Who else did I miss? What clans did I miss? Ikonas, raise your hand. Okay? Do you see the hands going up on both sides of the room? This is reuniting as real extended family once again. And so therefore, when we go to Agogo, the year of return when we went, we were the only African collective that went back during the Ghana's year of return and really returned, because we exchanged clan symbols with our brothers and sisters. That's real return, not tourism. So part of what we're going to be doing in the future, and a lot of people are asking, you know, Nana, will you come, or will we speak here, or do this, that, and the other? I want y'all to understand we have to stay in our zone. We have to stay in our zone. So therefore, that three and a half parts that I mentioned, me getting myself together personally, and then being able to be that impetus and that initial force to organize the Asante's formation here in North America, and specifically Philadelphia. And so once we were able to do that as a collective, then connecting with our brothers and sisters became the next level. You understand? But we had to first be who we are. So the jurisdiction and authority that we have as Asante and Kurom comes from here. It was our family members and our elders here that then put Nana Tuuda on the stool. And by extension, Nisa Ra, which I have to give her perks as the first Asante and Kuromhene. And so to bring this to this portion of a close is that once we were able to reconnect as we done here, all of these are exemplary for y'all. We don't want y'all to go and keep traveling as tourists, and they go over there and they ask you what day of the week you're born on, and you tell them, oh, I'm born on a Friday, and you're a male. They tell you, oh, your name is KOFI. Well, your name is only KOFI if you are actually an Akan. If you're another ethnic group, today we've had the Ga participating. We've had Akwamu. We have various manifestations of Akans. We have, and when I mention Ga, I will be remiss not to mention a gentleman by the name of Lawrence Larteque Latte. He has been the exemplification of one that all of us, just as we've connected, we have sister cities, every community across America should realign themselves up and then connect themselves with some African country, whether it's in Nigeria or Mali or whatever, do the same things that we're doing to have that reconnection again. But this gentleman has handled hundreds of thousands of dollars for us building our embassy, a sustainable model with solar energy, capturing rainwater, organic farm. We have the land now for a museum. We worked through him handling hundreds of thousands of dollars, and he never took one dime. Huh? Is that exemplary? All of these are examples of what we can help you to do, filtering what takes place so that you don't become frustrated and become disenchanted by your tourism coming back to say, that was a great experience, but now I'm back in hell. What do I do? Huh? So this is what we're here to do, to help with those who want to cultivate that type of awareness. If you're a Khan and you're an Asante, we can help you. No matter where you are in the country, we can help you establish yourselves and have your nations and your communities organize yourselves. Understand there's a difference between government and governing. Government is what we're under now, huh? But we're not really under it. All we have to do is stand up and govern ourselves with our own systems, and we will be liberated. We will be freed. The bondage will be broken, but we can only do it by going back through Sankofa. So I want to bring my portion to a close. As I said, we're just touching on things here. The book, and believe me, I'm not trying to sell books. The book is not brought back so Nana Tuuda can ride off into the sunset a millionaire. It's not even designed for me to turn a profit. The book is for y'all. It is for y'all. It was for me. The ancestors wrote this book. When I went back and read the book, it was a page turner for me, even though it was my life. So hopefully, each one can grab something from it. If it's not just one thing to stop you from going 46 years down a road that we've had to travel in order to get here today. So if we can help fast track you, put you on course, help you to guide you, we're here for you to do that. Please don't get offended if you ask me to join, even the community-based organizations. We had to grow through that. We realized that that was a Western way of pimping our community through nonprofits that had nothing to do with the ability to change our plight. We have to stop looking to people who don't know, never demonstrated what they are for us, our way forward. Stop doing it. Doesn't make sense to me. Let's make it make sense that we go back and get what we have demonstrated we have, and let's live it once again. So any political parties or any type of thing that people see themselves working through, we can't assist you with that, because that would be distracting us for what it is that we need to do to live what we're talking, but also to be exemplary to help you and assist you in your journey. So we are going to break now. We're going to have a brief, opportunity to change, but we're going to come back with a Q&A, question and answer. I don't even have too much to say anymore. I want to respond to your questions, and you can ask questions of anyone here, but the book itself is something that we highly recommend that you invest in. You get a copy from your children. If they don't know how to read, teach them how to read it, okay? And as, again, you grow and develop, we'll be here for you. We have, again, the last link of my tutorial in terms of Nana Sapone, and, Shekam or Shekam Ron Neferman, Amen, and Nana Sapone, is this gentleman that's sitting right next to us, the Adrirfo Rakwesi Nechem Pata Akan of the Akwamu Nation. He can help you with making connections in terms of showing the connections between the various cultures and giving you information that will help resonate within your spirit to help you hear and listen to your ancestors and confirm what it is that you're being shown so that you can, again, organize yourself. So the resources are here. Nana, just say a few words about NAPRA, what we're going to do with NAPRA.
Okay, so if you see the acronym NAPRA, it's a network for African American productions for restorative ancestry. So basically, a network, you eventually be able to log onto the network, and there'll be a great deal of content, whether it's podcasts, whether it's documentary films, whether it's different, books, productions, all empowering every aspect of our lives. So different content creators, as long as they're focused on, from our community, not just Akan, but any Afurakani or African individual, black person who's putting forward content that's going to empower our people physically, spiritually, economically, politically, grounded in our culture and so forth. That's the kind of network that we're putting forward. Similar to like if you look on Netflix and they have, content, but other channels that don't just have movies, but podcasts, newscasts, broadcasts, art, just anything that's informational. That's what the network is going to be about.